Hold up. Are we seriously talking about trading Tyreek Hill for Jauan Jennings and a 6th-round pick? Because if that's the best realistic trade proposal floating around, then either the trade market has completely collapsed or someone needs to check the water supply in these front offices. This proposed trade is so lopsided, it's almost insulting to everyone's intelligence. We're talking about Tyreek Hill, a game-breaking, defense-warping, Hall of Fame trajectory receiver, being traded for a solid but unremarkable slot receiver and what amounts to draft table scraps. That's not a trade. That's highway robbery with a smile. Let's start with the obvious. Tyreek Hill is still one of the most explosive players in the NFL over the past 2 seasons in Miami. He's accumulated over 3,400 receiving yards and has consistently been one of the most dangerous deep threats in the game. His ability to stretch the field vertically and create separation is unmatched, and his impact goes far beyond just his individual statistics. He completely changes how defenses have to approach game planning. The idea that Miami would trade him for Jauan Jennings is laughable. Jennings is a decent player, don't get me wrong, but he's essentially a complementary piece in an offense, not a centerpiece. He caught 82 passes for 1,050 yards last season, which are solid numbers, but they're nowhere near the impact that Hill brings to an offense. Trading Hill for Jennings would be like trading a Ferrari for a Honda Civic because, hey, they both have 4 wheels. The 6th-round pick sweetener is almost more insulting than helpful. 6th-round picks historically have about a 20% chance of even making an NFL roster, let alone becoming meaningful contributors. So we're essentially talking about trading a proven elite receiver for a replacement-level player and a lottery ticket that probably won't win anything. But let's examine why this trade makes 0 sense for Miami beyond just the obvious value disparity. The Dolphins have built their entire offensive identity around Hill's unique skill set. Tua Tagovailoa has developed incredible chemistry with Hill, and their connection has been one of the most consistent elements of Miami's offense over the past 2 seasons. Why would you blow up that partnership for such minimal return? The argument that Jalen Waddle could simply step into Hill's role shows a fundamental misunderstanding of how these players function within Miami's offense. Waddle is an excellent receiver, but he and Hill have completely different skill sets and operate in different areas of the field. Hill's deep speed and route running ability opens up the entire field for other receivers, including Waddle. Remove Hill, and you're not just losing his production. You're making everyone else's job significantly harder. From San Francisco's perspective, this trade would be absolute theft. Kyle Shanahan will be getting one of the most dangerous offensive weapons in the NFL for basically nothing. Hill in Shanahan's system will be absolutely terrifying for opposing defenses, especially considering how creative Shanahan gets with his play calling and motion concepts. The timing of this proposed trade is also questionable. We're in August, right before the season starts. If Miami was going to trade Hill, wouldn't they have done it earlier in the offseason to give themselves more time to adjust their offensive scheme and find adequate replacements? Trading your number 1 receiver right before the season starts is the kind of move that destroys team chemistry and ruins seasons. The financial aspect of this trade don't make much sense either. Hill is expensive, sure, but he's also one of the few players in the NFL who actually justifies his salary with his on-field impact. If Miami wanted to shed salary, there are much better ways to do it than trading away their most productive offensive player for pennies on the dollar. What's particularly frustrating about this trade proposal is that it represents the worst kind of sports media speculation, the type that ignores basic logic in favor of creating clickbait content. Any serious analysis of Hill's value would recognize that if he's going to be traded, the return package would need to include multiple high draft picks, established players, or some combination that actually reflects his impact on winning football games. The 49ers connection makes sense in theory. Shanahan's offensive system would maximize Hill's abilities, and San Francisco is clearly in win-now mode. But the proposed compensation is so far below market value that it's not even worth discussing seriously. If the Dolphins were actually considering trading Hill, they should be looking for packages that include first-round picks, young established players, or multiple assets that help them remain competitive. The idea that they'd settle for a middle-tier receiver and a late-round pick suggests either desperation or incompetence, neither which accurately describes Miami's current situation. The Brandon Ayuk injury situation mentioned in the article actually makes this trade even less likely from San Francisco's perspective. If Ayuk is dealing with knee issues, why would the 49ers trade away depth at receiver right now? They'd be more likely to hold on to Jennings as insurance rather than trading him away for an expensive veteran who comes with his own injury concerns. What's most telling about this entire trade scenario is that it feels like wish fulfillment rather than serious analysis. 49ers fans would love to add Hill to their offense, and some media members love creating dramatic storylines about star players changing teams. But the actual logistics and value propositions make this trade virtually impossible. If Hill does get traded, it won't be for scraps. It'll be for a package that reflects his status as one of the most game-changing receivers in the NFL. Until someone proposes a trade that actually makes sense for Miami, these speculation pieces are just sports media filling airtime with unrealistic fantasies. What do you think? Am I being too harsh on this trade proposal, or is it as one-sided as it seems? Let me know if you can think of any scenario where Miami actually accepts this kind of return for Tyreek Hill.